Hello everyone, this is Erik, the Asian Enthusiast, and this is my review of Godzilla Minus One, a Japanese kaiju film from 2023. I would classify this as a remake of sorts of the original Gojira from 1954, but it's different enough to carve out its own identity within this 30-plus film franchise. So in 1945, at the end of World War II, Koichi Shikishima, a kamikaze pilot, feigns technical issues with his plane and lands on Odo Island. A dinosaur-like creature, Godzilla, appears during the night and attacks the island, killing everyone except Koichi and the lead mechanic, Sosaku Tachibana, who blames Koichi for the deaths of the others. And you'll see why when the film starts rolling. So 2 years after the war, following his return to Tokyo, Koichi is plagued by survivor's guilt. He starts a relationship with Noriko Oishi, and they have adopted a child whose parents were lost in the bombing of Tokyo. In the meantime, Godzilla has mutated and was enlarged by the U.S. nuclear tests at Bikini Atoll, and it destroys several U.S. warships before heading to Japan. The U.S. refuses to aid Japan owing to tensions with the Soviet Union. So this is one of those Godzilla movies that has a lot of heart to it, I think, with a heavy emphasis on drama and character arcs. The last Japanese Godzilla film, Shin Godzilla from 2016, focused far more on thematic depth instead of character development. And, some people had a problem with that, which is understandable. But I did enjoy, how they explored those issues. I think it was a smart decision that the filmmakers of Godzilla Minus One chose to refocus their material onto a personal character story, simply because it was a different angle to take at this point in the franchise. There's obviously still some themes in this for sure, but the character arc is really like the core of the film. And in terms of quality, it's very well done. The dramatic impact accumulates over the course of the movie and really reaches its crescendo at the very end, in my opinion. And I'll be honest, I was teary-eyed during the ending of this film, which kind of surprised me. It was surprisingly impactful on an emotional level. I wasn't really expecting that. And there are ways of interpreting the ending that are different from what is presented on its surface. So just think about the film a little bit. I've seen some other reviews that maybe interpret the ending differently, and there is some justification for that. But in the end, I really cared about the human characters in this, and if a film can do that, it gets props from me, regardless of the genre. Now, I do think, in terms of criticism, I do think that some of the dialogue in the film was a little bit too on the nose. And I noticed this a few times, mainly during the opening half. So, for example, very early on, our protagonist kind of freezes when he's attempting to fight an early version of Godzilla. Like, he has him in his sights, but he just freezes because he's scared and can't, pull the trigger because he's fearful of his own life. And a handful of his fellow soldiers die. And the other remaining soldier who lived chastises him by actually saying that they all died because he couldn't pull the trigger. And in that particular situation, everyone, including the viewer, already knows that this dude screwed up, And I think it would have been more effective had the other guy simply confronted him physically or gave him an angry stare. He didn't really need to explain what had just happened. The dialogue in that moment I found was a little bit unnecessary. It was over-explanatory, right? There are a few other scenes where I thought the characters could have been a little bit more subtle in their communication. The tone of this film is consistently serious and dark throughout. There are some powerful dramatic moments, for sure, at multiple points in the film. And if I were to describe Godzilla Minus One in one word, I think that word would be intense. It's a very intense movie, and the performances actually help to carry it. And they do get sometimes a bit expressionistic, maybe a bit overcooked at times, but the film is so intense, it kind of works anyways. I did like the acting overall. I mean, Ryunosuke Kamiki is still a young actor, but he's been around for years. One of his earliest roles was in the Takashi Miike film, The Great Yokai War, as a little kid. But he's been in some real bangers over the past few decades. I was reminded of this when I was revisiting his filmography. The Kirishima Thing, the Rurouni Kenshin sequels, and Bakuman are all really good films. He still has like that boyish look to him, but he can deliver good dramatic scenes. I like this dude. I only recently became a fan of Minami Hamabe due to her charismatic role in Shin Kamen Rider. But she's still very young, and her future looks pretty bright. I think she has like that X factor of just like having good screen presence and charisma. And then we have Munetaka Aoki in a supporting role. This is another actor that stuck out to me in this film. I always associate him with the film Season of Snow, which is not very well known. I do have a review of it on my channel. I'm probably the only guy on Earth who refers to Aoki as that guy from Season of Snow. But I've always considered him to be like an underground type of actor. He's always in supporting roles. And so he gets to shine as well in this film, even though he's a supporting actor. He was in It Comes and the Rurouni Kenshin films. So we get some Rurouni Kenshin, I guess, reuniting in this. So in terms of production values, the CGI is good quality overall. Some of the shots are a little bit cartoonish, and you can see this from the trailer. But there are some pretty fantastic special effects in this movie. The director, Takashi Yamazaki, was also the special effects supervisor. So any possible miscommunications or gaps between those different departments of the filmmaking crew likely non-existent since he was in charge of both. That's an advantage for a film that was made for a mere $15 million US dollars. $15 million. So that's nuts when you think about the budgets of these, $200, $300 million Hollywood films. I feel like Yamazaki will become more of a household name for international movie fans because of Godzilla Minus One. A lot of people are impressed by this movie, both critics and moviegoers alike, including the direction. So his career, I think, took a step up with this, so it'll be interesting to see where he goes next. I know he was already pretty popular within Japan, but this is kind of like his international step up, I think. Now, pacing in this film is a little bit slow in spots. I went into this expecting a slow pace, though, so it was fine with me. Now, I've complained about this before, but, my opinion on the Godzilla franchise is that I always expect a slower pace because moviegoers nowadays are more demanding of special effects and they want, really good CGI, and that costs money, which means that Godzilla's screen time will always be capped in a modern kaiju film, no matter who's making it from any country. So, I'm personally more of a fan of the action-packed stuff in the franchise, so gone are the days of like GMK or Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla 2, which just had copious amounts of Godzilla action. The only way to do that is to go back to monster suits, but moviegoers nowadays are too sophisticated for that, and they can't suspend their disbelief. But I'll stop the rant there before I get out of control. So do not expect like an all-out action flick, right? But there was more action in this movie than I had expected going in. There are going to be some gaps between the action set pieces, but I was satisfied when the movie was over. I'm like, that was just about enough action to be satisfying. And the scenes are pretty great. I don't want to spoil anything, but there's some really good scenes when Godzilla shows up, and they're pretty, like I said, intense. And a nice variety, too. I like the way they try to take him down at the end of the movie. It's a little bit different from some of the Godzilla films in the past, and it's a little unique. It's based on actual science and marine life. So all in all, I very much enjoyed Godzilla Minus One. Certainly in my top 10 films of this franchise. I'll have to watch it a few more times to kind of have it settle in, because I always rank movies based on pure entertainment value. But, I do have a video already on my ranking of all the Godzilla films outside of this one. So I'll include a link to that video in the description box below. But I strongly recommend this one. It's still in theaters, in the United States at least. So if you get a chance to check it out, I definitely recommend it. And as always, folks, I'll see you next time.